There is no genocide by the government of Sudan. However, what you have, including members of the current administration in Washington, have been brainwashed by this thing about genocide, 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 which they've become so disoriented by this propaganda that they no longer have a grasp on reality.
So the issue of Darfur is just a matter of too much lies. And when you say lies day and night, people become to believe that it is the situation, which is not really true. So my fellow Americans, those who are die-hard Save Darfur coalition people, come to Sudan and see for yourself.
Let's step back from the whole thing about the present day and look at the recent years of creation of this as a claim that there's genocide in Darfur.
This doesn't translate to any reality. And these are concocted scenarios to make people brainwashed so that they think that there is something wrong going on.
Oftentimes, what is portrayed as truth by the majority of popular opinion is wrong. Such is the case with Sudan. Since the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant against Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, the country stands more united than ever. The people have spoken. After decades of war, they have had enough. The questions confronting Sudan today are not confined to that nation itself. Rather, Sudan must be seen as an actor on the stage of current history, and it is that stage which determines the identity of the nation. We can use the issue of Sudan as a case in point, as a catalyst for understanding the causes of the current economic crisis and for implementing the necessary solutions to end it.
I bring you greetings from Lyndon LaRouche, our international movement which is represented here today.
A team of LaRouche PAC representatives participated in an international conference held by the General Union of Sudanese Students on uniting against the politicization of justice in Khartoum, Sudan from April 5th to 7th. This included a journey to Darfur to witness the internally displaced people's camps, presentations by President Omar al-Bashir, Vice President Ali Taha, cabinet members, and extensive interaction with Sudanese student population from all over the country. The trip also included discussions with government officials in Khartoum and in Darfur, including dialogue with the people of Darfur and a tour of modern agriculture and infrastructural development being built within Sudan. It should be clear to the cognizant that what most Americans are bombarded with regarding the shrieks of genocide in the Darfur region today, in the form of an amalgamation of Hollywood actors, neoconservative right-wing Christians, and ignorant college students, is not only an outright lie, but would lead to the destruction of the nation of Sudan and the rest of Africa. If you want to talk about genocide, get your facts straight. The real issue with the destabilization of the Darfur region is not inherent to the nation of Sudan itself, but comes directly from the role that the British Empire has historically played and continues to play throughout the African continent still today. Rather than helping to develop the population of Sudan and Africa, the British have consistently manipulated and controlled the region, halting economic development and accelerating tribal conflict.
The Sudan was what they call a condominium. It was ruled by both Egypt and United Kingdom. And we went through all the atrocities, the mistreatment, all the things of colonialism.
To understand this historically, people should shut their mouths until they go back to 1898 and go back to the time took over Sudan.
We've all heard of the great heydays of the British Empire, holding over half the lands of the world under its imperial control, from India to Africa to China and the West Indies. Since then, though countries in Africa and Asia have become so-called independent, the incessant grip of the British Empire has never ceased. Since the mid-1800s, the British had their eye on control of Sudan and Egypt due to their strategic location as the bridgeway between the African continent, the Middle East, and Asia. Whoever controlled this region controlled world trade. From then on, the British began to bring Sudan into their colonial chokehold. However, in 1880, a movement emerged in opposition to the British attempts to subjugate Sudan. The Sudanese would not go down without a fight. Muhammad Ahmed, known as the Mahdi, or the Divinely Guided One, consolidated a movement comprised of groupings from all across Sudan, from Dongola, from the Bakara region, and from Darfur. In 1885, Sudanese forces led by the Mahdi marched on Khartoum, intent on forcing British Governor General Charles Chinese Gordon out. The British had sent a relief force, led by Lord Garnet Joseph Wolseley, to Khartoum to buttress the city and keep the Mahdi from invading. The forces split up. One force was sent overland across the Bayuda Desert towards Khartoum. However, upon reaching Abu Talai, they were stopped in their tracks as Beja warriors, allied with the Mahdi, broke through the British line, halting the advance. The second column was sent ahead by river. They arrived in Khartoum on January 28th. Too late. Days earlier, the Mahdi forces had descended upon the poorly defended city by way of the Nile. They overwhelmed the scanty troops, marched on the garrison, and beheaded Charles Gordon, parading his head on a stick around the city and delivering it to the Mahdi. The British never forgave Sudan for this incident. After 13 years of independence in the region, British troops led by General Lord Kitchener returned to capture the capital at the Battle of Omdurman, killing over 10,000 Sudanese soldiers. Lord Kitchener ordered the tomb of the Mahdi ransacked, his bones thrown into the Nile and his skull brought personally before him to be destroyed. Then, further down the White Nile, Kitchener marched on Fashoda, confronting the assembled troops of French General Marchand's. Both armies stood opposite one another. Not one of them budged. Both claimed the region as their own. Finally, after a 7-month standstill, tense with the expectation of conflict, the Fashoda agreements were reached, dividing the region of Central Africa into British and French spheres of influence. Sudan was put back under British imperial control. The region was divided with absolutely no regard for ethnicity, culture, or natural borders. The arbitrary borders ensured continued destabilization within the region. The British had a playground in which to pit rebel and tribal groupings against one another. Even today, ethnic groups in Chad are the same as the ones found in Darfur. The British knew that primitive existence of sectors of the Sudanese population, a backwardness upon which the British depended for control, would wither and die away under the impulse of new ideas and with the rise of a new generation. In order to maintain their grasp on the people in Sudan, the British moved to instigate conflict in the region, to keep the population backwards and barbaric. So, in 1922, they enacted a policy separating the north and the south of Sudan. They passed a passport permits ordinance prohibiting any Sudanese natives from the north to move or work in the south, or vice versa, without a proper passport or permits. The official policy became to induce hostilities between the north and the south, running them as separate territories. They reduced the number of people involved in government by reinforcing divisions of so-called tribes and gave monetary and other rewards to tribal chiefs to keep them in power. The much broader policy was the control of Africa from Cape Town to Cairo and control of the Nile River basin. As a direct result of this policy, 1 year before Sudan's formal independence from the British, the first Sudanese civil war broke out between the northern government in Khartoum and the southern rebels. One of the most terrible wars in African history, killing an estimated 2 million people. Since then, nonstop warfare and destabilization has dominated the Horn of Africa.
Sudan was the first country in Africa to be independent on the 1st of January 1956. Because of the complications of the British by then, they isolated North from the South. In the name of these are indigenous African people and these are Arabs.
So you have a complication of elements around there which are all British intelligence operated. The last time I was in Sudan, I saw a bevy of this stuff. British intelligence all over the way.
Today, the British role in Sudan goes directly back to 1989, when the British intelligence created and directed organization known as the Muslim Brotherhood seized control of the country. Hassan al-Turabi, a prominent leader of the organization, reorganized the Sudan branch of the Muslim Brotherhood and eventually established the National Islamic Front in order to promote the creation of a radical Islamist state. In 1989, this organization led a military coup d'etat, reorganizing the government and purging members of the army, police, and administration. General Omar al-Bashir emerged as the compromised head of Sudan. During this time, there was no end to the North-South conflict in sight. However, a decade later, a shift occurred as al-Bashir officially broke from the National Islamic Front, throwing Turabi into prison. With this reorganization, the Bashir government initiated talks with the South, culminating in the 2005 Comprehensive